Reality isn't what you think it is. From the moment you opened your eyes to this world, you've been taught to see through someone else's lens, one that explains the universe in fragments, disconnected and chaotic. But what if that lens was never meant to help you understand? What if it was meant to keep you blind? There's a hidden framework that's been around for thousands of years, older than religion, untouched by dogma, and far more powerful than most spiritual books ever dared to explain. It's called Hermeticism, and at the center of it are 7 principles. Not rules, not commandments, but laws. Immutable, invisible forces that shape everything around you, your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, and the reality you call home. You don't have to believe in them. They don't care. They operate whether you acknowledge them or not, just like gravity. But once you do understand them, really get them, everything changes. The chaos starts to make sense. The pain finds purpose. And the power you thought was outside of you? It's been in your hands the whole time. You just weren't shown how to use it. Most people go their entire lives believing life is random, that things happen just because, that some people are lucky, others are not, and the best you can do is try to stay afloat. But what if life isn't random at all? What if everything, even the chaos, is governed by a set of laws so precise, so consistent, that once you understand them, it's like holding the blueprint to reality itself? The 7 Hermetic principles are exactly that. Ancient knowledge, attributed to a figure known as Hermes Trismegistus, part god, part sage, and the supposed source of all esoteric wisdom. These teachings weren't passed down to be worshipped. They were preserved to be used. They were known by alchemists, mystics, and great minds throughout history, but buried beneath layers of symbolism, secrecy, and misinterpretation. Until now. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Reality is mental. That's the first principle. Mentalism. All is mind. It's not a metaphor. It means that the fabric of everything you experience is consciousness. Not just your thoughts, but the field your thoughts exist in. You don't live in the world. The world lives in you. Your consciousness is the canvas upon which reality is painted. That's why 2 people can walk through the same situation and experience completely different realities. Because it's not the external that defines truth, it's the observer. Now that might sound abstract, but it's not. Science is catching up. Quantum physics has proven that observation alters matter. The double-slit experiment showed that particles behave differently just by being watched, meaning mind shapes matter, it always has. The second principle, correspondence, is just as powerful. As above, so below, as within, so without. The universe is fractal. Patterns repeat on every level. Your inner world reflects your outer world, and vice versa. That's not self-help fluff. That's geometry, biology, cosmology, and consciousness all mirroring one another. When your thoughts are in chaos, your life follows suit. When your internal world is clear, focused, grounded, your external world begins to reflect that. It has to. It's the law. Now pause for a second, because this is where most people stop listening. It sounds too simple, like there's no way it could be that foundational. But that's exactly why it's hidden in plain sight. The mind, your beliefs, your emotions, these are not side notes in the story of your life. They're the authors. And the system we live in has done everything it can to distract you from this truth. Because if you knew how powerful your mind truly was, you'd be impossible to control. If you're ready to dive deeper into knowledge that's too real, too raw, and honestly too controversial to share on YouTube, sign up for our free newsletter, Insights Academy, through the link in the description. You'll get instant access to hidden insights, plus a free digital copy of the Kybalion for a limited time only. Moving forward, each Hermetic principle builds on the last, like pieces of a puzzle. Together they reveal a complete picture, one that shatters the illusion of separation and limitation. Take the third principle, vibration. It says nothing rests, everything moves. At the smallest scale, molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, everything is in motion, And it's not just physical movement, it's energy, frequency, vibration. Your emotions have frequencies. Your thoughts have frequencies. And like a tuning fork, you attract what you resonate with. That's not some vague concept of vibes. That's resonance, entrainment, sympathetic vibration. Terms you'll find in physics, music theory, neuroscience. When you're anxious, angry, or stuck in a loop of fear, your energy matches those frequencies and your reality. It responds accordingly. The key is to raise your frequency through awareness, breath, action, and alignment. But this knowledge isn't meant to be worshipped or turned into another spiritual ego trip. That's the trap. You're not supposed to learn this to sound smart. You're supposed to live it, test it. Observe how your life responds when you shift your internal state, when you challenge your old beliefs, when you stop waiting for the external to change and start taking responsibility for your internal world. Because the 7 Hermetic principles don't demand belief. They demand awareness. They don't care if you're spiritual, religious, atheist, or somewhere in between. They just are, like gravity, like time, like breath. You've been handed a key. The question is, what will you unlock? For most of your life, these laws have been invisible to you, not because they're secret, but because you were never taught how to see them. And that's the trick. The most powerful truths are rarely locked away in some vault or hidden in a temple. They're right in front of your face, built into every part of your daily life. The issue is, you were trained to overlook them, distracted, conditioned, pulled into a system that benefits from your blindness. Because if everyone truly understood the Hermetic laws, the entire structure of society would have to change. And the people who profit from the current structure, they don't want that. Look at school. Look at the media. Look at how you were taught to interpret reality. You were never encouraged to explore the connection between your thoughts and your experience. You were told life happens to you, not through you. That you're just a body with a brain, stuck in a physical world, and your role is to fit into it. Get good grades, obey, work, consume, retire, repeat. You were never taught that your mind is the architect of your world, that vibration and polarity shape every outcome, or that rhythm governs every phase of your life. Why? Because conscious creators don't blindly follow the rules. They question them, they rewrite them, and that terrifies the system. The 4th principle, polarity, is the ultimate decoder ring. Everything has its pair of opposites, love and hate, light and dark, success and failure. But here's the twist. They're not different things. They're the same thing on opposite ends of a spectrum. Hot and cold are both temperatures. They're just degrees apart. This principle reveals that what you fear and what you desire often live right next to each other, and learning to shift your state along that pole gives you power. Feeling fear? Shift toward courage. Feeling apathy? Move toward curiosity. You don't need to leap from one extreme to another. You just need to pivot the dial. But again, this isn't just ancient philosophy, it's practical psychology. Cognitive reframing, emotional regulation, even modern therapy methods echo this Hermetic truth. The world is not binary. It's sliding scales. You are not stuck where you are. You're just anchored to a position you can move from. Most people never realize they can even move because they're too busy thinking in absolutes: good, bad, success, failure, right, wrong. But polarity breaks those boxes open. It's not about denying what exists. It's about learning how to shift it. Once you see polarity, you start noticing it everywhere. In arguments, in political ideologies, in how people label themselves and others. You realize how quickly perception becomes identity, and how easy it is to be manipulated when you only see the extremes. This law alone could dissolve so much conflict if people understood it, not just intellectually, but energetically. Because once you stop reacting to the poles and start working with the spectrum, you regain your center. And when you're centered, you're powerful. Then comes rhythm. The 5th principle. Everything flows in and out. Everything rises and falls. This isn't just poetic, it's observable. You breathe in, you breathe out. Tides come and go. Emotions swell and fade. Relationships grow and decline. But here's where people get it wrong. Rhythm isn't the enemy. It's the heartbeat of existence. The problem is, we've been taught to resist it. We fight the lows. We cling to the highs. We label certain phases as wrong instead of natural. But life is a wave, not a straight line. And the more you resist the wave, the more you suffer. True mastery isn't found in controlling the rhythm. It's in riding it. You start to time your actions with the natural tides of energy in your life. You stop blaming yourself for needing rest or reflection. You stop forcing outcomes during contraction phases and start building momentum during expansion. This is how creators move. This is how energy works. There's a rhythm to abundance, to inspiration, to healing. It's not always linear, but it's always intelligent. And when you align with that intelligence, life stops feeling like a struggle. It starts to feel like a dance. Now, most people hear all this and think, okay, that sounds interesting, but how do I use it? And that's where the misunderstanding comes in. These laws are not techniques. They're frameworks, filters. They don't give you power. They show you how you're already using it. Every thought, every belief, every choice is part of this system. You've been living by the laws whether you knew it or not. The difference now is, you're awake to them. The Hermetic laws were never about superstition. They were about observation. The ancients weren't trying to impress you with mystical riddles. They were handing you a map. It's just that over time the map got covered in dust, buried beneath symbols, metaphors, and misinterpretations. But when you wipe it clean and look again, the truth is obvious. You've been holding the key all along. You just never realized how to use it. Everything you see, touch, hear, believe, fear, or dream of, it all starts in the mind. That's not poetic fluff. That's the first Hermetic principle, mentalism. It states that the universe is mental in nature. In other words, reality is consciousness. Everything that exists began as a thought, not just your thoughts. The entire fabric of existence, from galaxies to gut feelings, is a manifestation of mind. But here's where most people misunderstand it. This isn't saying life is just an illusion like some empty hologram. It's saying that what we call reality is shaped by perception, and perception is filtered through the mind. Meaning, your inner world and outer world are not separate. They're mirrors. The thoughts you think, the beliefs you hold, the stories you repeat in your head, they aren't just background noise. They are the raw material reality builds itself out of. If mentalism is true, and everything you experience is shaped by your mind, then your mind is not just a tool. It's the operating system. It's the projector, not the screen. And that makes you the coder. But what happens when the code running your mind isn't yours? What happens when your beliefs about who you are and what's possible were handed to you before you ever had the chance to choose them? Most people are living out programs they didn't create. Parental expectations, school conditioning, social norms, cultural stories, they all embedded mental truths that became the foundation of how you see the world. I'm not good enough. Life is hard. Money is evil. I always mess things up. These aren't observations. They're mental blueprints. And according to mentalism, they shape what shows up in your life, not because of magic, but because your perception filters everything you see, think, and do. You act based on what you believe, and the world reflects it back to you like a mirror with perfect memory. Here's the dangerous part. Because most people don't understand the principle of mentalism, they blame the mirror instead of the mind. They think circumstances are separate from consciousness. But you can't change the mirror by shouting at it. You change the mirror by changing the source, your mind. This is why inner work is not optional. It's foundational. Meditation, journaling, therapy, shadow work. These aren't spiritual side quests. They're system updates. And this isn't just ancient theory. Modern science backs it. Quantum physics tells us observation changes the outcome of a particle experiment. That's not metaphor, that's fact. The famous double-slit experiment shows that reality behaves differently depending on whether it's being observed. Now ask yourself, what are you observing on a daily basis? What stories are you reinforcing? Because every thought, whether conscious or unconscious, is like a vote. And your subconscious mind doesn't ignore any of them. It listens, it records, it obeys. This is why affirmations, visualization, and mental rehearsal work, not because the universe grants wishes like a genie, but because your subconscious takes commands from repetition. If you keep telling it that you're unworthy, it'll filter your behavior to match. If you keep telling it you're powerful, it will begin to scan for opportunities that reflect that. That's mentalism in motion, not mysticism, mechanics. And this is also why most people never change. They try to shift their outer life without shifting their inner world. They set goals but sabotage them. They want love but fear intimacy. They want abundance but believe deep down they're not worthy of it. And the subconscious doesn't care what you want, it only creates what you believe. The problem isn't your reality, it's your mental architecture. Upgrade that, and the world around you begins to reshape itself accordingly. Let this sink in. You've been given the master key to the entire game. You are not powerless. You never were. You're just playing out a script someone else wrote. But mentalism shows you that the script can be rewritten, line by line. You don't have to fake positivity or suppress negative thoughts. You have to see the code, understand it, then deliberately write a better one, a truer one that matches who you're becoming, not who the world told you to be. And here's where this gets even more real. This isn't something you'll master in a day. Reprogramming the mind is not a weekend workshop. It's a practice, a discipline. But once you commit, the shift begins. Not because the universe suddenly blesses you, but because you finally get out of your own way. Mentalism is not belief, it's the foundation. All is mind. And if all is mind, then nothing in your life is fixed. Not your identity, not your past, not your potential. It's all fluid. It's all malleable. You can change your thoughts. You can challenge your stories. And as you do, you'll start to notice that life bends around your awareness like a shadow that always follows the light. That light is you. You've heard it before. As above, so below. Maybe it sounded like poetic mysticism or just another cryptic line from an ancient text. But the principle of correspondence isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a universal truth that connects everything. It means that the patterns of the universe repeat on every level. The macrocosm reflects the microcosm. The outer mirrors the inner. The invisible shapes the visible. What happens on one plane of reality, mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual, is echoed on all others. This law reveals one of the biggest secrets of transformation. When you want to change the world around you, you don't start with the world. You start with yourself. Why? Because you are not separate from the system. You are the system at a smaller scale. Just like a drop contains the entire DNA blueprint of the ocean, your life reflects the broader patterns of the universe. And once you understand this law, you begin to spot those patterns everywhere. Relationships, nature, history, even in your own behavior. The fractals repeat. The design is consistent. This isn't randomness, it's sacred geometry. Most people look at their problems like isolated events, bad luck, external circumstances, just life being life. But correspondence teaches you to look deeper, to ask, what is this reflecting back to me? If your relationships are filled with chaos, maybe your inner world is in conflict. If your work life is unfulfilling, maybe you're not being honest about your deeper desires. If life feels like a constant grind, maybe your internal beliefs are rooted in lack and struggle. The external is the echo, not the source. And it works both ways. Just like the chaos outside reflects the chaos inside, so too can inner peace create external clarity. When you align your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, with harmony, your outer world slowly begins to mirror that. It's not instantaneous, but it is inevitable, because the law doesn't fail. It's not based on luck or worthiness, it's based on structure. Just like gravity doesn't care who you are, correspondence operates whether you believe in it or not. The difference is, once you understand it, you can use it. Think about nature. A galaxy spirals the same way a hurricane does. The branches of trees mirror the branching of your lungs. The structure of a leaf reflects the structure of rivers, which reflect the structure of your nervous system. It's all connected. Different scales, same blueprint. This isn't just poetic, it's provable. Modern science is just beginning to grasp what the ancients already understood. There's a divine pattern that unites everything. Now take that lens and apply it to your mind. If your subconscious is filled with unresolved fear, suppressed guilt, or shame, the universe around you will reflect those energies, not as punishment, but as mirrors, trying to show you what you haven't healed. And once you start taking responsibility for your inner world, the power dynamic shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and start realizing you are the architect of your experience. Not through control, but through coherence. This is why it's not enough to try and fix things externally. That's like cleaning a mirror hoping your reflection will look better. The real shift happens inside. You want more love? Cultivate it within. You want more clarity? Organize your thoughts. You want peace? Make peace with yourself. This isn't self-help jargon, it's physics, it's energy, it's law. And here's the deeper insight Correspondence gives you. It's not just about fixing your life, it's about understanding the nature of life. The same energy that moves the stars moves through you. The same intelligence that spins galaxies beats in your chest. You're not a bystander, you're a fractal of divinity. The entire universe isn't just around you, it's in you. And when you start to live from that awareness, life doesn't just look different, it is different. You'll start to realize that every person you meet is a mirror, reflecting something about you. Every challenge is a lesson, echoing a deeper truth. Every moment is a portal, revealing the state of your own consciousness. The universe stops being random and starts feeling intimate, alive, responsive, because it is. And if that feels overwhelming, good. It's meant to. The truth is, most people sleepwalk through life, thinking they're separate from what's happening around them. But you're not here for that. You're here because you're ready to wake up, to step out of victimhood and into creation. Correspondence is your reminder that nothing is disconnected, nothing is wasted, and nothing is happening to you. It's happening through you. Everything is energy. It sounds like something you'd see on a motivational Instagram post, but it's actually one of the most profound and scientifically backed truths of existence. The third Hermetic principle, vibration, states that nothing rests, everything moves and everything vibrates. This isn't a metaphor. This is literal. Every atom, every thought, every emotion, every object, even the ones that appear solid and still, is in constant motion. What looks like stillness is simply vibration at a frequency too subtle for the eye to catch. That means everything around you, including you, is constantly in a state of vibration. Your body, your mind, your mood, your beliefs, they all emit a frequency. And the reality you experience, that's not random. That's the resonance. You're constantly attracting, repelling, creating, and shaping your reality based on the vibration you're radiating. Your frequency is your signature. It's the silent language you speak to the universe, and the universe listens. But here's the kicker. Most people miss. Your vibration is not set in stone. It changes, it fluctuates, and most importantly, it can be consciously shifted. You can train your frequency the same way you train your body, through focus, through awareness, through repetition, through emotional discipline. And when you start to do that, when you begin to elevate your emotional and mental state consistently, life begins to meet you at that higher level. If you're living in a state of fear, stress, guilt, or anger, those emotions have specific vibrational signatures. Low frequency, heavy, contracted. You're not just feeling bad, you're tuning into a whole station of reality that matches that energy. That's why problems tend to stack when you're in a bad mood. Your perception narrows, your thoughts get darker, and your interactions spiral. You're vibing low, and the world reflects it back. But shift your state, breathe deeply, connect to gratitude, move your body, laugh, create, Speak truth, and your frequency shifts with it. And so does the world you walk through. You start to notice different things, attract different people, come up with better ideas, feel stronger, more capable, more in sync. The world hasn't changed, you have. And because of that, everything around you begins to reorganize. Thoughts are vibrations. Emotions are vibrations. Words are vibrations. This is why affirmations, mantras, and music affect us so deeply. It's not just what they say, it's what they carry. A truth repeated with conviction can raise your entire state. A song played in the right moment can unlock something inside you you didn't even know was there. You're not just hearing or thinking, you're tuning. It's also why people can feel each other's energy without saying a word. Ever walk into a room and instantly feel tension, even though no one said anything? That's vibration. Ever meet someone who lifts your energy just by being around them? That's vibration too. We are all transmitters and receivers, constantly exchanging frequencies, mostly without realizing it. The system never taught you this. In fact, it ridiculed it, because someone who understands their vibrational power becomes harder to manipulate, harder to sell to, harder to scare. If you knew that your emotional state was not just a reaction, but a generator, that your feelings were creating ripples through your mind, body, and life, you wouldn't allow the media to pump you full of fear. You wouldn't let toxic people drain you. You wouldn't speak negatively about yourself or others, knowing that words carry energy and that energy shapes matter. And here's the deeper truth. Raising your vibration isn't about pretending to be positive all the time. That's spiritual bypassing. It's about becoming deeply honest, grounded, and emotionally sovereign. It means feeling your emotions without becoming a prisoner to them, observing your thoughts without letting them run your life, choosing alignment over reaction. That's true elevation. Your frequency is affected by what you consume, not just food, but content, conversations, environments. Every scroll, every conversation, every interaction is either lifting or lowering your state. That's not paranoia, it's awareness. Once you become intentional about your vibrational hygiene, everything changes. You no longer tolerate gossip, doom scrolling, or emotionally draining habits. You curate your life to support the energy you want to live in. That's not control, that's mastery. When you finally grasp the law of vibration, you stop fighting with the world. You stop begging reality to change and start changing the only thing that truly matters, your state. Because when you change your state, you change your frequency. And when you change your frequency, reality starts to respond in kind. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. You became it. This principle isn't about fake positivity or magical thinking. It's about energy literacy. It's about understanding the subtle, invisible mechanics that govern your experience. When you vibrate higher, you don't just feel better, you become better. More aligned, more powerful, more awake. And that's when something extraordinary starts to happen. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. Not because you've gained control, but because you've gained coherence. You're no longer in resistance to the universe, you're in resonance with it. Everything you experience exists in pairs. Not because life is cruel or divided, but because duality is the structure that holds reality together. The fourth Hermetic principle, Polarity, teaches that everything has two sides, two poles, and that opposites are, at their core, the same thing expressed in different degrees: hot and cold, light and dark, love and hate. These aren't separate forces, they're the same energy, just vibrating on opposite ends of a spectrum. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a tool for mastering your emotional and mental reality. The moment you realize that every experience you have is part of a spectrum, you start to understand that you're never stuck where you are. Hate is not the absence of love. It's love twisted, wounded, inverted. Fear is not the opposite of power. It's power misunderstood. Cold is not the enemy of heat. It's just less of it. That simple shift in perception changes everything. Because once you recognize you're on a spectrum, you also realize you can move, you can shift. Most people live their lives swinging unconsciously between poles. One day they're confident, the next they're insecure. One moment they're full of joy, the next they're in despair. They think this chaos is random or emotional weakness, but it's not. It's a lack of awareness of the principle of polarity. The game isn't to avoid the lows or pretend they don't exist. The game is to transmute them, to shift from one pole to the other through awareness, focus, and internal alchemy. That's the secret power this law unlocks. You can flip the switch. When you're in a state of fear, you don't have to force yourself to be fearless. You just need to shift toward courage. Even 1 degree in the right direction starts to change your state. If you're feeling hopeless, you don't have to jump to full confidence. You just need a spark, one thought, one action, one conversation that nudges you closer to the pole you want to align with. Because the principle of polarity guarantees this. If one end exists, so does the other. That means if you're in a dark place, light is not just possible, it's already present, just at a different frequency. You don't have to create it from scratch. You only need to shift your position. The system doesn't want you to know this. It thrives on extremes, because extremes create division, and division keeps people powerless. Politics, media, religion, they all use polarity against you. Left versus right. Us versus them. Good versus evil. It's designed to make you pick sides and stay reactive. But polarity isn't about taking sides. It's about understanding both sides so deeply that you rise above them. When you're no longer trapped in duality, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you become powerful. Even in relationships, this principle plays out. Think about love and hate. They feel like opposites, but they're both charged with intense energy and connection. The real opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. When you hate someone, it often means you still care, somewhere deep inside. Understanding that gives you leverage. You can ask, what am I actually responding to here? What truth is buried under this emotion? That insight allows you to shift from conflict into clarity, from reaction into growth. You also begin to see the world differently. You stop labeling things as good or bad in a rigid, moralistic way. Instead, you see contrast. You see lessons. You see movement. A breakup isn't just pain, it's the other pole of deep connection. Financial loss isn't just failure, it's the other side of self-reliance and resourcefulness. Illness isn't just suffering, it's an invitation to reevaluate your body, your stress, your alignment. You're not being punished, you're being shown a contrast, a polarity that contains a lesson. And when you shift your view, you shift your vibration. The moment you stop seeing life as random and start seeing it as polarity playing out, you begin to move through it with grace instead of resistance. And here's a deeper secret. Polarity exists not just in emotions or events, but in identity. Every version of you that you dream of becoming already exists as a potential. The confident you, the wise you, the free you. Those are not far-off fantasies, they're just versions of you, vibrating on the other end of the spectrum. You don't have to create them from scratch. You simply have to move toward them. One aligned thought, one aligned action at a time. This is why the ancients taught that mastering polarity is a key to inner alchemy. It's how you transform lead into gold, not outside you, but within you. You take pain and transmute it into wisdom. You take shame and shift it into understanding. You take scarcity and transmute it into creativity. That's real magic. Not wand-waving, but perception shifting. Vibration elevating. Conscious polarity work. When you begin to apply this law in your life, you stop fearing contrast. You welcome it. Because now you understand that it's just energy moving, and that you hold the power to steer that energy in the direction you want to go. This is what it means to be a magician in your own life. To take raw experience and shape it with intention, not by denying polarity, but by mastering it. There's a reason life feels like a cycle. One moment you're up, riding the wave of success or happiness or clarity, and then, without warning, it all dips. You're low, confused, unmotivated, lost, and you wonder what you did wrong. But what if you did nothing wrong at all? What if this swing, this rise and fall, isn't failure, but a law? The fifth Hermetic principle is rhythm, and it teaches this. Everything flows in and out. Everything has tides. A pendulum swings in all things, and that swing, once understood, can either control you or serve you. Most people resist this swing. When they're up, they try to hold onto the feeling, gripping joy like it's sand slipping through their fingers. When they're down, they panic, spiral, or numb out, thinking something's broken. But rhythm isn't a punishment. It's a pattern. It governs the seasons, the moon, the ocean, your breath, your emotions. Everything alive dances to this rhythm. It's not about escaping the swing. It's about learning how to ride it consciously. The Hermetic teachings say, the measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. This means that the higher your highs, the deeper your lows can be. But also, the deeper your pain, the more potential there is for joy, growth, and expansion. That's why those who've suffered the most often become the most compassionate, wise, or powerful. Pain stretches your emotional range, and that range gives you access to more of life, not less. But rhythm becomes a prison when you're unconscious of it. When you identify with every swing and assume each emotional state is your truth, you wake up feeling anxious and believe something must be wrong. You lose motivation and think your goals are meaningless. But sometimes the swing is just rhythm. Your energy needs to rest. Your mind needs to process. Your emotions need to release. And when you stop fighting the rhythm, something shifts. You begin to use it instead of being used by it. This principle is key for emotional mastery, because rhythm is what turns moods into momentum. You start seeing your patterns, those weekly crashes, those monthly surges, the days when creativity floods in, and the ones where it disappears. And instead of judging yourself, you start working with those rhythms. You plan for them. You ride the wave when it's high, and you slow down when it dips. You stop forcing productivity when your system is asking for reflection. You stop chasing happiness when your soul is pulling you inward. This isn't laziness, it's alignment. It's nature. The system we live in doesn't want you to honor rhythm. It teaches you to be consistent 24/7, to perform like a machine, to always be on. But you're not a machine. You're a living, breathing, oscillating being. Your mind, body, and spirit move in waves, not straight lines. And the more you try to override that, the more disconnection you feel. Burnout, apathy, anxiety, these aren't signs of weakness. They're symptoms of a life lived out of sync. And here's where it gets deeper. The pendulum swing isn't just about you. It operates on a collective level. History moves in rhythm. Society swings between freedom and control, peace and chaos, awareness and ignorance. We're living in a time of rapid oscillation, massive shifts in consciousness, followed by waves of suppression and distraction. The Hermetic law doesn't just apply to your personal mood swings. It applies to the rise and fall of civilizations, the cycles of culture, the tides of truth and deception. And if you're unaware of this, it's easy to get swept up in the chaos, thinking everything is falling apart. But rhythm teaches us to zoom out, to trust that what goes down will rise again, and what rises must be met with grounded awareness. The master doesn't stop the pendulum. They anchor themselves at the center. This doesn't mean emotional numbness. It means emotional sovereignty. You feel the waves, but you're not drowning in them. You witness the rhythm, but you're not at its mercy. When joy comes, you welcome it without clinging. When grief hits, you let it move through without panic. You become the eye in the storm, the still point in a world that constantly moves. This principle also applies to manifestation and creation. There will be seasons where your goals feel alive, the flow is easy, and everything aligns. And then, there will be seasons where nothing seems to work, no matter how hard you try. This doesn't mean the dream is dead. It means the tide is out. Trust the process. Keep doing the inner work. Don't rip the seed out of the soil just because it's not growing fast enough. The swing will come back. The tide will rise. And if you've stayed centered during the ebb, you'll be ready to receive the flow. Rhythm is not here to break you, it's here to teach you. That change is natural. That stillness is sacred. That forward movement includes pauses. The pendulum will always swing. The only question is whether you'll be a victim of its motion or a master of its flow. And once you choose mastery, life begins to feel less like a roller coaster and more like a dance. You stop reacting to every rise and fall and start gliding between them with trust. That's the power of rhythm. That's the freedom in the swing. Nothing in your life has ever happened by accident. Read that again. Every thought, emotion, encounter, coincidence, opportunity, and setback, every single one, is linked to a cause, whether you were aware of it or not. That's not fatalism. It's the sixth Hermetic principle, cause and effect. It says, every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. And if you've ever looked at your life and thought, why do I keep ending up in the same cycles? This principle is your wake-up call. Most people live as victims of effects. They react to life instead of directing it. Something happens, good or bad, and they chalk it up to luck, fate, or worse, blame someone else. But Hermetic wisdom flips that script entirely. It says, if there's an effect you don't like, don't fight the symptom, change the cause. But to do that, you need to stop operating from autopilot. You have to become the cause. Now here's where this gets deeper. Most of the causes in your life aren't on the surface. They're buried in your subconscious. Your beliefs, expectations, habits, emotional patterns. These are the silent forces generating your outcomes. Think of them like the software running your internal system. If that software believes I'm not worthy, guess what kinds of effects it creates? Toxic relationships, self-sabotage, missed opportunities. But once you update the internal code, the external reality can't help but change. That's the law. This principle demands radical responsibility, and that's not always easy, especially if you've experienced pain, trauma, or setbacks that weren't your fault. But responsibility doesn't mean blame. It means claiming your power. It means recognizing that while you didn't choose every event, you can choose your response. And those responses ripple outward. They shape the next moment, and the next, and the next. You don't have control over everything, but you have far more influence than you've been told. Cause and effect doesn't just shape your life, it shapes the world. Every word you speak, every action you take, every energy you put out, these are causes. And their effects don't always show up immediately, but they do show up. Sometimes in ways you'll never see. A kind word to a stranger can shift their day. A creative project can spark a movement. One decision to break a cycle can transform generations. You're more powerful than you know, not because you can control everything, but because you can become intentional. This law also shows you how the system keeps people disempowered, because if you believe everything is random, or that someone else always holds the reins, you'll never take back authorship of your life. Media, education, religion, many of these institutions condition people to stay on the receiving end of life. Follow the rules, hope for the best, stay in line. But the moment you understand cause and effect, the illusion cracks. You start asking deeper questions. What's the root cause of my anxiety? Why do I keep attracting the same kind of person? What belief keeps me stuck in survival mode? And those questions, uncomfortable as they are, open the door to freedom. Here's something else the Hermetics taught. Those who understand the law can rise above it, meaning the average person is swept along by causes they didn't set in motion. But the master, the conscious individual, becomes a creator. They set causes in motion with intention. They plant seeds on purpose. They choose how they show up, how they think, what they focus on, and because of that, they influence outcomes others think are lucky or unexplainable. This principle also teaches you how to navigate your relationships differently. Instead of reacting to people's behavior, you start asking, what caused this? What pain are they carrying? What energy am I bringing into this dynamic? It creates space, compassion, awareness. You stop getting pulled into drama and start seeing the mechanics behind it. Life becomes less about reacting and more about understanding the hidden architecture of every moment. And this isn't about being in constant control. It's about conscious creation. It's about choosing your thoughts like they matter, because they do. It's about realizing that even your silence, your attention, your emotional energy are causal forces. You are constantly broadcasting. And the universe? It's constantly responding. Now imagine applying this daily. Waking up and choosing gratitude not because it's trendy, but because it shifts your vibration and sets off a chain reaction. Choosing to forgive, not for the other person, but because that release frees up your energy. Choosing to act on that idea, speak that truth, send that message, because you understand that one action can echo for years. The more you work with this law, the more synchronicities appear, not because magic is happening, but because you're finally in sync with the mechanics of reality. You're not waiting for life to happen. You're making it happen. The dream job, the aligned relationship, the inner peace, they're not random blessings. They're effects. And you, whether you realize it or not, are the cause. The final Hermetic principle is the one most misunderstood, misused, and overlooked. The principle of gender. And no, it has nothing to do with modern identity politics or societal roles. This is not about biology. It's about creation, inner alchemy, the masculine and feminine energies that exist in everything, the sun and the moon, logic and emotion, action and intuition, seed and soil. The Hermetic teachings say, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. And when you learn to balance them within yourself, you gain access to something most people have never been taught how to use, your true creative power. Let's start with what these energies actually mean. The masculine principle is about direction, assertion, penetration, clarity, conscious thought. It is willpower. It decides and executes. The feminine principle is about reception, intuition, nurturing, creativity, and the subconscious mind. It is feeling. It holds and incubates ideas. Both are needed. One sparks, the other shapes. One gives form, the other gives life. The universe, and everything in it, is born from the interplay of these two forces. When they're in balance, creation flows. When they're out of sync, life becomes blocked, chaotic, or hollow. You've seen this imbalance everywhere. A society obsessed with hypermasculine values. Domination, productivity, rationalism, control. Intuition is dismissed. Rest is demonized. Emotions are repressed. As a result, people become disconnected from their inner world, from creativity, from empathy, and ultimately, from themselves. Or on the flip side, people get stuck in over-identifying with feeling, imagination, or passivity, with no structure to bring those dreams to life. That's not balance. That's an internal conflict. The Hermetic path teaches integration, not favoring one energy over the other, but marrying them inside of you. Want to change your life? Here's the formula. Conceive plus act. First, you go inward. You receive the idea, the insight, the emotion. That's the feminine. Then you direct it into the world with clarity, structure, and purpose. That's the masculine. Without the feminine, you become a machine. Without the masculine, you become a dreamer who never creates. It takes both to manifest. This is where true manifestation begins, not in repeating mantras or wishing hard enough, but in understanding this principle of inner union. You visualize with emotion, that's feminine. You take action with intention, that's masculine. You feel it as if it's already real, then you move in alignment with that feeling. That's how reality begins to bend. Because this law doesn't just explain how you create, it explains how the universe creates. And here's the twist. The most powerful place to balance this principle is in your subconscious mind. That's where most of your beliefs, fears, desires, and patterns live. And it is deeply feminine in nature. It receives whatever you impress upon it, especially through repetition, emotion, and symbolism. That's why rituals, visualization, storytelling, and even music are so powerful. They bypass logic and go straight to the subconscious, where real change happens. And when you fuse that subconscious alignment with conscious masculine action, you become unstoppable. This law also reveals why relationships are often mirrors. We attract others who reflect the balance or imbalance of masculine and feminine energy within us. A person who suppresses their feminine may attract someone overly emotional or passive. Someone disconnected from their masculine may find themselves drawn to people who are aggressive or controlling. It's not random. It's the law of gender in motion, seeking balance through reflection. And the more you integrate both energies within yourself, the more harmonious your outer relationships become. They stop being power struggles and start becoming sacred partnerships, mirrors, not battlegrounds. In ancient Egypt and other mystery schools, this principle was considered sacred. The symbol of the androgynous being wasn't about literal gender, it was about spiritual wholeness. When you unite the masculine and feminine within, you stop looking outside for completion. You no longer need permission to create. You no longer need external validation to feel whole. You become the vessel and the flame, the thought and the will, the void and the spark. And just like that, we come full circle. The principle of gender is the final key that ties all the other laws together. Mentalism taught you that the universe is the mind. Vibration showed you that everything moves. Correspondence revealed the fractal nature of reality. Polarity explained contrast and unity. Rhythm taught you to ride the cycles. Cause and effect handed you responsibility. But gender, it gives you the power to create consciously, to initiate, to birth new realities, not from desperation, but from alignment. If you've made it this far, understand this. Knowing these principles changes nothing unless you live them. Knowledge without embodiment is dead weight, but knowledge with alignment, that's alchemy. That's when your life starts to move differently. You see behind the curtain. You stop playing the game and start designing it. And if you truly want to live from this level of mastery, not just dabble in it, there's only one path. Daily practice, reflection, reprogramming, courage, integrity. You don't need to become perfect. You need to become aware and act on that awareness again and again until it becomes your new default. This isn't about mystical beliefs or spiritual labels. This is about becoming fully human, awake, sovereign, and whole. So now you have the 7 principles, the Hermetic keys. They've been passed down through ages, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with eyes to see. They're not magic. They're not religion. They're reality, decoded. And they've been here all along, whispering, "You are more powerful than you were ever taught." And if this has opened your eyes even a fraction, if something deep in your gut is telling you, "I felt this truth before, I just didn't have the words for it," then now is the time to go further. Sign up for our free Insights Academy newsletter in the link below, where we go even deeper into the hidden frameworks of reality that we can't speak about on YouTube. For a limited time, you'll also get a free ebook copy of the Kabbalion, the original Hermetic manual that started it all. This isn't the end. This is the beginning. You've seen behind the veil. Now comes the real question. Will you close your eyes again? Or start building your life with your eyes wide open? If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."